Welcome back to Live Now with Veenu and Chuck. I'm your host, along with my amazing co-host Chuck Hogan, and we want to welcome you to Spanglish World Network and Her Network on Zingo TV's channel 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, please make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire Sticks, Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. So today, Chuck and I have a great discussion for you. It's something that I can say that I've learned recently, but I really haven't. And that is about conflict. Chuck, you and I both know conflict happens all the time in our life in different ways and different colors and different phases. And I think one of the commonalities, and you and I were just talking about this the other day, is that the need to be right.
Yes.
The need to be right. And, I've always heard that, do you want to be in love or do you want to be right? And sometimes I'm going to tell you, I want to ponder that question. I think sometimes really I want to be right and not love in that moment.
Love is a many splendid thing on a lot of different levels, and being right can be one of them. No, I love that this topic came up, Veenu, for so many different reasons, and that is there's this tendency to, and especially I'll just say in society, in today's environment, there's this proclivity for everyone to be kind of embedded against everyone else. So what does that mean in layman's speak? We're in competition constantly. It's like if you're in education, did you graduate the top of your class?
Right.
Were you number one? Because number two, it's kind of like the Ricky Bobby line. If you're not first, you're last. And so there's this challenge in today's environment. It's like, where do you rank? And not just like, we're talking in elementary school, there are kids. What's your ranking? Are you on the wait list to get into the preferred preschool or with this nanny? And it's like, holy smokes, why is there this tendency now for everything? And people go, well, what does that have to do with being right? Because if you're not in, you're wrong. That's the perception. If you're not in the in crowd, if you're not in with these people, and the level of FOMO, fear of missing out, is like just beyond insane right now. There are so many, well, were you right? Were they right? Were you wrong? And because if you're not right, then the brain goes, it's only binary, then you must have been wrong.
Right.
Ooh.
I definitely feel that way. When I was in boarding school for my last 2 years of high school, I always joke and say most 16-year-olds get a car. I got a one-way ticket to India to boarding school. Thank you very much. And when I went there, they had mark readings. And I was like, what is a mark reading? They literally put up, because every semester you have a test, the finals, and they literally put up your name in the order that you ranked in that class.
Yeah.
My name, and I was 11th grade, and I was the only 11th grader. And so, but they put me in with the 10th graders. And I thought, well, shoot, I'm always going to be number one, right? Because I'm just it. No, I was always last. And it was so humiliating because being 11th grader, even if they put me in there, I should have always come on top because I was 11th grade.
Right.
And I should be able to do the 10th grade work and do better. And it just added to that I'm not worth it. And that I have to fight to move up. Like, I just wanted to never be last. Like, even if I could be second to last, that was moving up in my book. Right. And, just recently I did amazing seminar with one of my mentors, William Whitecloud, who's actually been on my own show. And what I learned during that seminar is that the way I personally have viewed life, there's always winners and losers. Mm-hmm. And that in order to be seen, loved and appreciated and not have FOMO, because that's probably the number one fear in life, actually, I'm hearing now is FOMO. I had to win. I had to win. And like when I would talk to people about my history of being bullied. Like most people that are bullied, they don't want to be seen. They want to hide. They want to be the recluse. Like, don't look at me, because if you don't see me, you won't bully me. I was the opposite. I was running for class president. I was going out for the basketball team. I was going out for cheerleading. Didn't make any of it, by the way, but I still went out because I thought the only way I can make it is if I try out for it. And if I try out for it and I do win, that slight possibility, if I do win, then they'll like me. Then I have won, and then I would be right, and then people would want me.
Right.
And so again, there was definitely win and lose. And I built my whole, like, I could look back everything now, and everything was a win-lose. Even in my relationship, when we have a disagreement and it gets escalated, and he's defensive, then I'm defensive, then he's defensive, I'm defensive, and it just escalates. I think about it after, and I'm like, because one of us had to be right. One of us had to be right.
And here's the deal. What if you were both right? What if you were both winning? What if the world has conspired to give you both a unique opportunity to connect? And this is where I'm living now, where I don't go, oh, it's right or wrong. And they go, come on, dude, really? Like, so rose-colored lens. And I go, yes. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't have aspirations for my children. It doesn't mean that I don't have aspirations for my wife and I, and for my friends and I, and for all of us to grow. And yet I also realize that there's reasons and why this is achievable and why it's not, or not yet. I don't believe anything's absolute. I really don't. I have this belief system now where I go, okay, it's not right or wrong. It's just not yet. Because if it's a must for me, then I have so much heart and drive. I know that whatever I commit myself to, then continue to move towards it. That's not a question. That is like a journey. And I love, like I said, I love walkers. I love the journey. I love being on that path. And I've also found that the only time I have conflict is when I've already judged something. That's the only time. I mean, and I know people go, come on, dude. I said, no. If I've judged something, I go, that is injustice. That's wrong. It's like, well, no, that's from my perspective. But these freedom fighters or activists or people who are acting in their way feel that it's justified, and doesn't mean I have to agree with it. But however, it does offer the opportunity of going, is there another way of looking at this? Because I don't know their life conditions. I don't know what they've experienced. I can only see it and go, wow, how much pain must someone be in to act that way, to lash out that way? And they go, no, they just had the need to be right. Their ego was so big. And I go, really? Do you know this? Did you have a conversation with them? And I'm reminded, Veenu, there's a gentleman I saw who is an African-American gentleman. And if I'm not mistaken, he was a musician that has now become an activist. And here's the interesting part about this. I actually met him at an adventure event with the Platinum Partners with Tony Robbins several years ago in Wyoming. Beautiful man. And he is most renowned for meeting with the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. And he goes, why do you hate me? He goes, I don't hate you. I just hate your kind. And he's like, going, wait, what? He goes, what kind? He goes, humans that tan and have darker skin, maybe a little curly hair on top. And he goes, so here's what was interesting. He started asking better questions. And here's what he ended up finding out. The guy just needed to feel right.
Correct.
Here's the amazing part. He stepped down as the Grand Wizard for the Ku Klux Klan. He even gave his shroud and his hood to this man, and they befriended one another. Because when he said, I took away judgment, there was no competition. So what are you hating? Well, you're hating whatever you feel is resisting you. Wow. Yep. That need to be right. That need to feel. And so let's go there for a second, if I may, my beautiful sister. And that is, what does being right even mean?
Well, you know what? It's so funny because I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, when you're talking, I'm like, what does right even mean? what if I am wrong? And that's what I've been helping people see. So what if you are wrong? Does the world end? Do you stop breathing? Does everything go away in your life if you're wrong?
Right.
Or is the possibility that if you're wrong, you have an opportunity to learn something? What if we put more attention in trying to be wrong than trying to be right? How the world would change because we would grow so much more. So at the right time, we could actually answer it right. I was even thinking about, with parenting and how much our kids feel like they're in trouble or they can't tell us because they don't want to disappoint us. And really what it comes down to is they don't feel they're being right. Because you said something, it's that judgment.
Yes.
It's that judgment of there's a right and wrong. What if we took the judgment away and there was no more right and wrong? What if we were able to just say, this is the fact, this is how I see it, whether it's right or wrong, this is how I see it. Tell me how you see it.
Right.
What are you seeing right now? What's coming up for you right now?
Well, and here's where it gets really twisted, because we'll use these kind of notes of pleasantry around this stuff. We'll go, oh, what was it, a positive or a negative experience? And you're like going, well, the only way I could give you an opinion on that is if I judged it, measured it, compared it against something else. And it's like, what if we just took it as the lesson and the experience? So for some people, they'll walk or they'll hike and they'll go, oh, boy, I really beat myself up today. Boy, I earned this drink tonight or this good night's sleep. And then there'll be other people go, gosh, that was such an amazing experience. It was so refreshing to be out in that beautiful air and nature and communing and seeing all the flora and fauna. And thank you. What an amazing experience. You go, were you just on the same freaking walk I was on? Two entirely different experiences.
Well, one's in gratitude for what's around them, and the other one's in judgment of what it cost him or what it should have been or what it's taken from him.
So here's what I realized. When we're open, everything's possible. When we're closed, we judge. And we judge for a very simple reason, and that is that 10 million-year-old monkey brain is trying to protect us. And so it starts to justify the way that we're feeling. So this goes back to something you and I have been discussing since day freaking one of this show. And that is live now, because yesterday's history and tomorrow's a mystery.
Yep.
So right now, all you have is this moment. And in being in the moment and appreciating where we're currently at, not where we might get to, but enjoying the journey right now, there's just appreciation. And that's such an open frame because it opens us up to all these possibilities. When we don't feel there's any options, or we're doing this against our free will, and now we're being pushed into something, wow, we get closed and we start to judge. And thank you for that, Cindy. And yes, it's true. I mean, everything is possible when we decide that that's where we get to live and that's where our focus goes. Because we've discussed this, and I love when you bring this up, and that is where focus goes, energy flows. And I know it sounds so cliche, and yet it's true. And so many people are trying to avoid the negative. So now they don't even see the positive, Veenu, and they're like going, okay, as so long as I don't get mom and dad upset, I'm going to push the boundaries. But, it's like, and I go, your privilege in life as a child of ours is the test.
Yes.
No, there are some days you're going to get on my freaking nerves, and I love you. And good on you.
I think also, though, it comes around also the conditions we put on it. We put conditions around loving. We put conditions around, it's not unconditional love, because unconditional love is that there is no conditions, that it doesn't matter who or what I am in that day. You're still going to love me because you love me. You see my soul, because all of our souls are pure. It's the body, it's the behavior that we create from, like you said, the past, like what we believed to be our truth when we were 10. We've adapted that 20, 30, 40 years later, I'm going to say under my breath, right? Hitting that 50 mark next month. But we've taken it and it's secured us. So we think that this is our belief. And then we've put conditions around it. And with those conditions, we stay closed.
Yes.
And with those closed mind, like you were saying, is that then all there is judgment. All there is judgment. It's always, and you know what? We are our biggest criticizers because we sit here and say, well, is that the right decision? Did I make the right decision? I always tell my kids, I never say make the right choice. I always say make a good choice. Like that's like my saying. You can ask my older boys. I always tell them when they leave my house, I love you and make good choices. I
Make
love
a
you
choice.
and make good choices. Because who am I to say that the choice that they made that got them in trouble or whatnot was not a good choice? What if that was the best choice they could make in that moment and they got the biggest lesson because who they are today was because they got that lesson earlier?
And let's put it in perspective, okay? It's not as though you're getting 411, 911s, Amber Alerts on your phone constantly that your kids are living in hedonism and screwing up constantly. The facts are is that the majority of the time they're remarkable. They're
Right.
amazing, they're flourishing, they're thriving, and yeah, on occasion, are they going to make mistakes? I hope so, because that means they're pushing the boundaries of their comfort level. Where I get concerned is when no one ever makes a mistake, and you're like, "Oh, they're the perfect child." Oh, they, and I go, for what you see and what you don't see, you better pray that you never find out. And people are like, "Oh, well, what do you mean? They're not that way." And I go, Would it make a difference? Would it make a difference? And the truth is, no. They get to live their lives based on their terms.
You know, Chuck, you brought up a good point because this is one of the things I teach parents. I've been teaching them for years. I say, you know, when you get into that power struggle with your kid, you're in a ping pong match.
Yes.
You really want to win? Put your paddle down, let the ball go. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're so right. And I said, yes, because all you're doing is you're keeping that I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. And that's the ping pong ball. Put your racket down and just give up and say, you know what? Let you be right today. Because would you rather the conflict persist just to be right? Because again, to your question earlier, Chuck, what does it mean to even be right?
And if you're Charlie Sheen, it would be winning. And the truth is, if they're feeling love, they winning. If they're feeling accepted and understood, isn't that winning? And how do you feel when you actually understand and you get them and go, I could see that from your point of view? That is what I call right. That is what I call winning.
Right.
Because ultimately, I don't know if a parent, and I'll speak for myself, Veenu, but I know you and Brian very well. Your children's happiness is everything to you. And it's like going, okay, so beratement, judgment, marginalized, minimalized, made wrong, always having to improve, or proud of you. I understand. You're growing, millimeter or a mile. That's beautiful. It doesn't have to be this all encompassing breakthrough every single time, pinnacle of the mountain, setting a new standard, busting barriers. I was like, what? Okay, that's exhausting. When do you get to recover? When do we get to rest? When do we get to celebrate?
You know, it's so funny because just, you know, because we're so vulnerable on the show and I feel like people learn from us and what we go through. Just recently, I had this huge blow up, if you would, with my oldest son, who's 29. And we said some awful things back and forth to each other
Mm.
on the first night. The second day wasn't any better. And finally, I'm just like, I'm done. Like, we're not solving anything. I'm done. I'm not talking about this. And I then let go. And I'm like, what would I love? What would I really love? And what I would love had nothing to do with what I was arguing about. What I would love would be a great open relationship with my son who so he knows I love him, that none of this matters, that I love him. And that I was angry and hurt people. And I said, you know, that's what I have to do. I have to send him a voice text so he can hear the sincerity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want him to read my text message through his own filters of tonality, because we were in an argument. And so when I just went and I let go, Chuck, I let go of everything of having to be right. If I could just prove to him I'm right, then he'll be on my side and then we'll let go of it. Because that's what we're really doing. If you believe that I'm right, the conflict will be done and then I won. But I didn't want to win. I wanted my son to know that I love him and that
Yes.
everything I've done is through love. And whether I've made the right decisions, here we go, right or wrong, the fact is I made the decisions.
Yep.
And we're all living and we're all learning. And I'm
Listen.
going to tell you, I didn't even get a chance to send that. And I got a text message saying, Mama, I love you and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I've said to you. I was angry. And then I, again, teared up and I was able to send the voice text to him with absolute love and say, you know what, I was wrong too. And I'm going to tell you, we grew so much because he's like, Mama, we just have to communicate better. He's like, this is where I could have done better. And then I said, this is where I could have done better. And it was so beautiful just by letting go, even the energy, right? We talk about frequency. Our frequency comes from those emotions. When we feel we always have to be right and we're the champions and we won, our frequency is actually really low.
Oh,
And so when we let go, even energetically, of letting it all go, let the turmoil, let the conflict go and see the healing around it. He took the first step. You
mhm.
can't make this stuff up.
No.
Like, this is like living proof of what you and I are talking about today. When I let go of the need to be right, because I'm mom and I know, and you've done this time and time again, and you're doing this and you're doing this and you're doing this, I was like, what? No, I'm not doing this. Like, and I had to prove myself. I had to prove I was right. And all we were doing was fighting each other. And when we let go, the beautiful magic happened. And we not only let go of the conflict, but we grew. We grew in that moment
Right.
of how we both could do better. And there was no, we both, it was a win-win situation.
It absolutely is. That when again, when we start talking about resistance and persisting, that when we are playing the game, and we're taught this, the game of life, that there's this game that's, and I was like, what do you mean? You're experiencing life, you're living life, you're thriving. So when we get to slow down a little bit and open up to the possibilities, it sends, if you want to call it again, that energetic connection that we can now connect with other people. And it's an invitation to connect. Because now I'm approachable. When we're prickly, what does that even mean?
I don't know. Are you doing are you doing a reading? Do you want to give me a reading, Chuck?
I don't know. I was like, I don't think we are. I'll do my Karnak. Hang on. Okay. Yes. Kids and family. So here's the cool part. We get to decide that it's not a competition. And when we open up the possibilities to letting go, there's this level of vulnerability. And so there's a real easy exercise. And we see this happen with kids all the time when they're infants, when they're young. And part of it is that they'll grab on tight and you'll see them and they get so angry and like they'll like turn purple. They'll hold their breath till they have to breathe, till they have to breathe. And then it's like,
Let it go. Yes.
and then so many kids, the next thing they do is this. It's an invitation. They are looking to
Mm.
connect energetically with someone else and to create that level of love. I believe that's what right feels like. I believe, and this goes back to so many fundamentals that we talk about. The three things to ask: how am I feeling? What does it mean? And can I? And this is important to understand. Do I need to feel a different way instead? The reason why this is so important is that it takes you out of your head and puts you into that facilitation of realization, which is this is your honest. Where freedom comes from is when we let go consciously, so now we can feel openly.
Well, it connects everything, right? It fully aligns you
Yes,
to your
body,
head.
mind, and spirit.
It's that
Absolutely.
body, mind, and soul. It's that body, mind, and soul in that moment. And again, when a child opens up, they're opening up to love. They're opening up to, it's like a surrender. right? It's like a surrender, when they let go of that breath and they open up, like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I need you, and the parent picks them up and they hold them and they give them back that connection. And, I really believe that, again, we can go back, we could probably do a whole show on intention. But, one of my mentors has said that, people come with the best intentions, but their delivery sucks.
Right.
And it's true,
It is.
I mean, I had the best intention with my son. He had the best intention with me. And our delivery was horrible to each other, absolutely horrible. And, um, you know, I think that if we just go back to that moment of what's the intention here?
Mhm.
Is the intention to be right? Or is the intention to learn and get across and open and share, share as a team? I just had a beautiful coaching call with a couple, and I asked the husband, I was like, how do you know that your wife loves you? And he's like, she's my teammate. Like when she's being my partner in my team, I know I'm loved by her.
Yeah.
I thought that was so beautiful. I've never heard that before, but it was so beautiful that this man can say, you know, like most men, like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden it's like, I said, well, if she wasn't here, how would you, what would you miss about her? He's like, her doing life with me, her being my
Yeah.
like by my side, my partner, my team. And I said, so are you saying that that's how you know you're loved, because she's there to be your team? He's like, yes, yeah, I do believe that. Yes. And I was like, oh my gosh, like how beautiful that is. So
When it's not you or me, it's we.
correct. And you've said that so much. I mean, I've learned that from you so much, right? There's a
Well,
you or me, it's a we.
and it's all beautiful. And I will add to this that there are emotions that drive that feeling of right or winning. Everything is based on emotion. And we can test the theory. If we start to go, oh, so in this case of that couple, let's use them as a shining example of that realization of we, that we're teammates. And I go, great. So here would be my next question. Are there rules for the team? Because you brought this earlier, and we get to kind of close that loop, Veenu, and that is the only time that we feel marginalized is when we have rules that don't support the way that we're desiring to feel, the way that we need to feel. And that can become a little bit of a challenge because people are going, oh, no, 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 you don't get it. It's like we're a great team when we're communicating. We're a great team when we're on the same page. We're a great team. And I go, okay, so are you a great team when you're winning? Are you still a great team when you're having challenges, or the opposite of winning, which is tying or losing? Or
Right.
and they're like, oh, well, okay, then we've got a communication issue. And I go, oh, so there's rules that go along with being on the winning team.
Yeah. One of our friends that we're close to, Sergio Bandena, he had this cheer and I was hoping to get it, and I don't remember what it was, but it's where I learned that we're not winners or losers. We win or we learn.
Yes.
I've actually, and I've never even told them this, I've actually implemented that with my kids, that there is no winners or losers. You're either winning in that moment or you're learning something. And if you're learning something, aren't you still winning? And like my son Samuel's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, so then you're setting yourself up as a win-win.
And I believe that every single thing that we experience is exactly that. It's an experience. It's an opportunity. And you and I have discussed this so many times. Where people get aggravated is when they feel like their options are missing, when they're like MIA, and they're not, they're not here. And so when we look at this, and I love this. Our executive producer is chiming in, and I love this. He's saying every time you learn through an experience, you win a battle in life, and it's true. And let's put that even at a higher level, which is any experience is exactly that. It's a reference point in
Right.
your timeline of your life, and that is the definition of life. It's the culmination of all your experiences. So why wouldn't you want more of them? Why wouldn't you want to engage even at a deeper level and not be so afraid? This is one of the most beautiful things I ever heard is sample life. It's the biggest gift that is your birthright. Those that leave this earthly plane are the ones that they leave with regret because they didn't sample enough of it.
Right. That's why they say that the graveyard's the richest place in the world, because all the hopes and dreams died with them. Right.
It's
They didn't get a chance to live them or whatnot.
the most fertile soil on planet Earth.
And I'm going to tell you, here's another way to look at it. You could either look at it as you want to win the battle or do you want to win the whole war? Because you can win the battle and lose the war. But if you lose at the battle and you learn something, you can win the war. And I thought that was such a beautiful metaphor when I heard that, because so many people in life, especially after COVID, they feel like everything's a battle, right? Like everything's a battle. And we got to win against the vaccines, and then the masks, and then going to school, then going back home, and then going back to school, and then masks, and then not masks, flying out of town. Nope, you can't fly on this airline. Like there were so many battles and people were getting so frustrated. I've never seen more animosity and anger in a world than I did when COVID came.
Sure.
There was no, the word love and appreciation and gratitude was no longer there. It was, this is what we looked like when we lived in the world of scarcity. We thought we were all missing.
Let's put the world in perspective here for just a moment. 100 years ago, to be able to travel to a foreign country in luxury, where you actually could recline your seat, sleep, eat, wine and dine, and be taken care of. And that was considered the absolute lap of luxury. And now we do it incidentally. Now you have a Tesla that will drive you without you even having to put your freaking hands on the steering wheel.
I don't trust it yet.
I understood. Not there yet. Getting closer. So why is this so important to understand? Be an active participant. My wife and I were just reminiscing about this. And in the very near future, this is going to be a reality for us. We are going to buy another manual car, a stick shift. Why?
We have one. We just got.
Because I love them. And they're engaging, and you get to drive. I go, this makes all the difference in the world. And in today's environment, that means it's theft proof for the most part.
Because people can't know, they don't know how to drive. You got to know how to drive it to steal it.
No clue how to drive a stick shift. So I know.
Do you remember those days that you could like pop the clutch, because you could start it without, just push it, put it in gear, you're going without even turn it on?
I remember it like it was yesterday. I had a 1974 Volkswagen Super Beetle.
Oh,
that was my first car.
Then.
Yep. So California, grew up there as a kid. First mode of transportation was a motorcycle. So 1 down, 4 up. I know the gearing ratio is very well on motorcycles. Why do I go there? Because that experience of riding, that experience of freedom, that experience of engagement. There are so many things now that people are actually going deaf, dumb, and blind to life experience.
Yeah.
They would rather pay someone. And I actually had this the other day. Example, I said, this may be a little old fashioned. My kids and I still cut our lawn. And people, they're like, yeah, but here's the deal. In my neighborhood, people are like going, are you nuts? It's 100 degrees outside. I said, this is our house. We take care of our house. This shows pride. And what I have been finding is that now my kids' work ethic, they're not afraid to sweat. They're not afraid to get out and plant flowers with us. They're not afraid to go earthing with us and cut the grass and trim the lawn and then jump in the swimming pool and frolic and play and cool off and have fun. They go, but that's a waste of time. And I go, only if you're not getting lessons. See, I
Mm.
believe that everything in life, and as a man, I will say this, every time I do that type of work, my testosterone level goes up. It refuels me and lets me
Wait, wait.
reset.
Whoa. Does that mean us every time that we do it, our testosterone goes up? Because I don't want it to go up. Okay.
Now, and here's the deal. So this is where it comes full circle. And I love what John Gray has to say about this. Then when my testosterone levels back up, I get to be the man for my wife, for my children. Because when we're connecting to family, estrogen and progesterone go up.
Right.
And so this yin and yang that's been going on. And the challenge now has become, and people go, well, why is this a losing thing and being right? Say, because from our point of perspective, there's this thing of, ooh, that's a very strong woman and she's too masculine. Or, oh, he's so effeminate. Why? Because, oh, he's so an artist and creative and he dresses well. And I go, what does that have to do with being a man or a woman? It doesn't. However, when on task and to grow in the workforce, women have become more masculine.
Yep.
And I'm not being a sexist, I'm just being realistic about biochemistry here for a moment. So testosterone levels go up. And it's like, ooh, then how do we create connection? I said, by the man actually being able to be the man and provide that sense of security and openness where now your feminine can open up and actually be connected. And people go, okay, so what does this have to do with right or wrong? I said, it reduces conflict. It
Right.
makes it where now there's an agreement frame and your energies can coincide.
It's the polarity. It's the polarity aspect of like what relationships need. And it doesn't matter same sex or not. If you still have to have the polarity. And I love that you guys still do your lawn. I would say we do too, but it's not a we, it's a he. He does. My husband does work. And but my son, our 11-year-old son, he wants to get out there. He's learning how to help dad and be
Yes.
out there. My daughter loves to garden as long as there's no bugs.
Yep.
We have not fixed that challenge yet, by the way. Outside garden, no bugs. We're still working on that one. If anybody has a cure, let us know, but without pesticides, okay? But it's we've taught our kids to be outside. We've taught our kids that, when we were growing up, Chuck, it was so funny because my husband sent me this thing on Instagram, and it was this thing that said, you know, for all you guys out there that complained about using the hose to drink water at, did you guys ever think about a sink? And then this lady comes on saying, did I think about a sink? Yeah, but my patootie was locked out from the time the sun came up to the sun went down. So
Right.
there was no sink back there. Okay. This is when we had to go mow lawns to make money. We had to, knock on the door, get a snack lunch outside the door, eat our lunch in the heat. We learned to go play at the pool. We got the sprinklers out. We ran through the sprinklers. Like those were the days when we enjoyed, and I bet you our vitamin D was never in deficiency either, because we got plenty of that.
Well, and you had a chance in these engagements to have lessons and learnings and the opportunity to grow. And one of the things that has occurred in today's society is it's gone way beyond helicopter parenting to bulldozing, where
Okay.
they clear the path to any resistance because they go, oh, well, the only way you're going to get ahead is through connections and having a leg up. And I go, whoa, really? So why don't you just have someone take your kid's SAT for them? Why don't you let them study on their behalf and they go, and they could be a good administrator or steward of someone else's mental capacity? I said, no, the expansion of your body, mind, and spirit, you don't build a muscle by having someone else lift the weight for you.
Correct.
And yes, you can buy what looks like a muscle and have a surgical implant if you want. And I said, artificial is still artificial. At this point in time, we get to decide that the school of hard knocks and these lessons are what temper all of us and created that desire within ourselves to know that there was something more, that you're not done cooking. And this is the universal law that we all get to abide by if we choose to. And that is, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yep. And that is why, if we could put aside being right or wrong and we can stop the conflict, we would realize how much we grow together by just opening our minds to say, hey, you know what? I do believe my way would get us the touchdown. However, I'm open to hearing what your playbook says.
And is that the goal? Is that the goal? Because
Exactly. Realize what is the goal then.
Well, and again, because there's rules. So we go, oh, so not to go off in the weeds, but Simon Sinek, infinite by comparison to finite. If you know all the players and you know the rules, and if you break the rules, there's penalties, and the only outcome is to win the game, I go, that's a very finite way of living. And in fact, it only promotes one thing, and that's judgment. You either make a right decision or a wrong decision. On the other side, if we go into infinite, it's like, oh, I only know some of the players. Why? Because I'm constantly growing. They're constantly growing. And our ecologies will blend over each other. And we may come in and out for different reasons and seasons. But there are no rules. There's only value alignment. And when you're around other people who have this drive, this desire, that's when you move beyond just being like-minded into like-heartedness. This is why you and I connect so well, because I understand you, who you are, what you are, how you live, why you do what you do, and who you be. And then the last part is there's no winning or losing. I just want to freaking stay in the game for as long as I can, because I'm having a great time. Like these engagements we get to have with all of these folks, and God bless you all for coming on and your comments. I mean, seriously, this is beautiful. We're watching these and we're not ignoring you. Trust me. We're seeing all of this, and we're guiding our conversation around where all you are coming from. So thank you. And what we'll say is this: bless you for having the lifestyle and being raised the way that you were raised, because we're doing this because we believe in living now. This is our belief system. This is something that it's such a pleasure to be here with everyone. And I can't imagine a better foil and co-host and loving sister than Veenu Keller for us to be able to have this exchange in information, because we don't always agree.
No.
She's like, nope.
We know. But we're also both willing to learn from each other.
Always.
And we're also both open to saying, yes, that wasn't my belief. And I can't tell you how many times my belief have shifted just because I was open to hearing something different. I love again what our producer Eduardo just said. Whining doesn't make you mighty, just makes you closer to reaching the reality of life. Winning, not whining.
Winning.
Off the top of my head. Winning does not make you mighty, just makes you closer to reaching the reality of life.
And
again, it's the conditions, right? Our reality is based on the conditions we put around everything. And even winning and losing has conditions around it. So if we just take off the conditions, we open ourselves to what we would really love.
Yes.
And we go for that instead of putting all these obstacles around these conditions of getting it. And we take off the right or wrong, and we put on the living now in the moment. How life would be different.
I had an exchange this morning with someone, and we've been dealing with a very challenging business transaction. And he goes, oh, I'm just so angry. He goes, I'm so disappointed. And in fact, he used the P word because I'm just, ugh. And I was like, okay. And I go, and how's that helping you? How's that helping me? How's that helping we? And he goes, well, I'm just sharing with you. And I said, great. And how do you feel? Do you feel more empowered? Do you feel more resourceful? Do you feel more compelled? He goes, no, I'm just angry. And I said, great. Call me back when you're not. I said, take some time for you. Put yourself in a timeout. Go breathe. Go chill out. And he came back a couple hours later and he goes, I feel a lot better. He goes, I apologize. He goes, I was not myself. And I said, no, you were. And it's okay. Just understand that if this is your outcome and the way that you really needed to feel, i.e., how am I feeling now? What does this mean to me? How do I need to feel instead? I go, take that time for self so that you don't get off in the weeds where now you need to be right. Because the only time you're angry or ticked or perturbed or that level of anger is that you feel slighted, you are judging, something's wrong, something's right, you're right, they're wrong, how dare they? And I go, hey, Are they going to change for your benefit right now?
You feel like you lost.
Well, you drinking the poison, expecting someone else to perish, is not a great strategy. So, when would now be a great time to slow down, be an active participant in your own salvation, and chill for a second?
And, we teach that to our kids all the time. We're like, you being angry at your sister or you being angry at your brother, because I got twins, and it's a love-hate relationship, especially as they're getting older. It's even a more love-hate relationship. And we tell them all the time, we're like, you're angry and you're yelling, but you're the one that's dying. You're drinking your own poison, but you're expecting them to die, and it's not happening.
Yeah.
And
I love this. Did you see what our in the chat, our solid policy said? That's why debates rarely end in mutual agreement. It becomes who's the right one. And I would agree. And to your point, Veenu, when we open a dialogue where it's a mutual exchange with no judgment and no trying to prove a point, rather being inquisitive as to the other person's distinctions, there's a level of appreciation and respect, and the motive and intention aren't questioned at that point. Because no one feels slighted and no one feels pushed back. So now it's not this conflict, it's an invitation. So instead of pushing against one another, it's an engagement, and we get to move together.
I think it just comes back to the full circle to what you said earlier. What does winning mean anyway? What does being right mean anyway? What if at this point we just decided that being right didn't matter? And I would challenge our listeners, go for just a day, go for one day without needing feel the need of being right, and see how much conflict you have in your day.
What if you were just a grateful observer?
I love it.
And we approach from that standpoint of, oh my gosh, there is so much opportunity. There are so many distinctions. There's so many ways of seeing things from a different light. What if we just became really inquisitive about everything?
And we were curious and not critical. As I say in all of my shows, that just be curious and not critical, and open your mind to the possibilities. Again, do you want to be right, or do you want to be in love?
Yeah.
Do you want to be love?
Listen, I love that. And so this is great. Our producer said, Tommy Lasorda from the Dodgers said that teams win when everyone unites for one common goal and listen to each other, others' ideas without judgment. And here's the coolest part about this. Tommy Lasorda also said, it's not just fun when you're winning. You're winning when you're having fun. And it's like, wow, what a difference it makes when we start to look at this and go, wait, you're winning when you're having fun.
It's interesting because I always tell people, what is your win? What is your win? Is it reaching the finish line first, or is it having fun? Is it creating connection along the way?
Yes.
You're winning. And when you redefine that it's not just crossing the finish line first,
right,
you can create your own winning. And, it's creating that win-win. It's a win-win. How do you make life a win-win? And it's definitely not by having to be right.
No. Being inquisitive, being present, being engaged. I've come to realize that, at least in my model of the world with my family, I can shower my family with gifts and presents. They would gladly give any of that to have quality time and to be able to hang out and have soulful, deep conversations and to laugh together. We do this thing where they'll invite all of us into the living room and they go, hey, we're going to put on a comedy show. We're going to watch this together. Hey, we're going to watch this comedian. We're going to watch. And it's like, it's so cool. It's so great when we are just like living in that grace. And I know we could go on forever. I mean, this is something that we're so passionate about. And so I would say, to your point, Veenu, let's just be present and give that a go and see how that feels instead. Remove the judgment and be present.
I agree wholeheartedly. And again, Chuck and I really just want to take a moment to really thank you, the listeners, and all the comments we've had tonight. And you're right, presence is the key. Absolutely. I love what that listener just put in the chat. We appreciate you. We appreciate the commentary. We appreciate you coming and learning with us, because every time that Chuck and I come together, we get to learn from each other. We get to share it with you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all your news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.